Okay, so we're going to start setting up our project, and we're going to do it in Revit 2019. And I want you to start your project using the architectural template. So we're going to click on that. And really your first task is going to be to generate a custom title block. Okay, so that'll be sort of your first task getting this going. I'm going to show you how to create a custom title block, or how to edit a title block that we currently have in here. And I want you to add a logo into it. I want you to add some smart labels into it. And then I'm going to talk about shared parameters and kind of get you going on that idea to be able to add text into your title blocks. Okay. Now, shared parameters, I'm simplifying it using text as an example, but as we move forward, shared parameters are going to be a really interesting kind of custom aspect of Revit that you'll really like to use for other things. All right, so I'm going to File, I'm going to Save As, we'll save this as a project. I'm going to go to my desktop here, and I have a file called 2510, and I'm going to call this UR Urban Residence Bodily. Now I'm going to click on Options here, it's a little refresher, and make sure that I don't have any more than 3 backups running with my Revit project. So I'm going to click OK, hit Save, and my Revit project is now saved. So if I click Control S, Control S, Control S, that should, if I go into my file structure, right, there's my backups. Warning with this. I like to give a stern warning because I have fallen victim to this before, and it was terrible. But when you are opening your Revit files, right, I'm going to close this out here real quick. It's very easy to want to come up here and, oh, we're in class. I'm sorry. You know, we have a lab over there, and there's one across the hall, so we'll be done probably in the next half hour or so. Okay. Okay. All right. So it's almost like you get in the habit of, oh, hey, I have this here in my recent projects, and you get very used to clicking on this, right? Now, this is kind of an old habit from AutoCAD. I don't think it really translates, to Revit, meaning I think it's a good idea to always go to Open and to browse to wherever you are. Let's go to Desktop, browse to wherever your project is located, and open it from here. Okay, and I say that because everybody does this. You get working, you change where your file locations are, maybe you make a copy for a backup, and I do this all the time. I will take like a standalone copy and I'll save it out to Google Drive sometimes, right? Just in case something happens with my file, I'll have a standalone copy somewhere where I can go and I can get a fresh copy that was, not compromised. And so Revit always remembers kind of that last location. So I guess my point is always go and open it through the Open instead of hitting Recent, because you could have moved it, you could have, altered something where you think you're opening the most recent because it says that name, but you may not be opening the most recent, okay? So go through the Open menu, click on your file here and hit Open, right? It's always a good kind of way to go about it. The other thing too is every now and again I will accidentally click Open and my file will look like this, right? And I'll think, oh, it's the last one. It's the last one, right? It's always the last one, right? Or the first one. I've fallen victim to this several times, not several, but a couple of times where I think that I'm clicking on the right one and I accidentally click on a backup. The second you click on that and you hit Open, it will open, right? You will see your work on the screen. But a backup, and I don't know how, I think it's tied to an automatic backup, and also how many times you hit Control S, right? So I'm not sure the increment between the saves between those 3 backups, but if you accidentally open a backup and hit save, it will overwrite your current file, okay? So I did this probably 6 months ago, where I thought I was opening up my Revit file, my working file. I opened up a backup file, I hit save, and it killed like 3 days of work in my Revit file. So It's really devastating when you're working on something and all of your work just disappears, right? So just make sure that you're just cognizant of the fact that these backup files can very easily be opened. They will open, and if you hit save, it will overwrite that file, okay? The other thing I wanted to say is I've tried to route these somewhere else, right? Like AutoCAD, you can route your files to other places to save, right? You can't do that in Revit. They always save with the file. I just wish, it's a good system, but I just wish like there would be this and then a folder. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's another one of those, this in AutoCAD, there's things I like about both.
Exactly.
Just the backup files.
Right. I
agree.
agree.
Like that you can control how many you have. You
Yeah.
have one or you have 25 and you
Right.
can go nuts. Although don't have 25.
Don't have 25. I was like, don't have 25.
I was like, what did I do?
For real. Notes.
I can't remember what I think I hit the number twice or something like that.
And it just
tried to hit 33 or
oh my
something
gosh.
like that. And I had excessive backup.
It just starts generating them like crazy. And you delete them all and then they all come back. I know. So I just wish they would even just make it so you could route these to another folder, or it creates a folder and puts it in it, because it's so easy to overwrite your information. So first of all, I wanted to warn you about that, right? I'm going to close out of this and I'm going to open this again through my file structure. Okay. I also want to remind you that Revit doesn't work backwards, which means that I've opened this in 2019, I've saved it in 2019, and if I go home and I have 2018 on my computer, I won't be able to open and edit this, okay? So if you want to work in 2018, I'm fine with that, right? 2017 was kind of a bad version, so I wouldn't work in 2017 if I were you. But 2016, 2018, or 2019, I would work in any of those three.
2018 files won't open, or other way around, 2019 files won't open in 2018, right?
Right. Okay. So if you wanted to start this in an earlier version, you'd have to do it at home, essentially. Yeah. Though, I don't understand. I understand within a few years, but with AutoCAD, you can go back and forth a few years, so I don't know why you can't with Revit.
I'm surprised I think that's going to be short-lived with AutoCAD. I bet they're going to go to Brits every year soon.
I don't know.
Just money.
It's just,
they want you to keep those licenses.
Even within a year or two, it's like just so that you can, work with people.
Still lifetime, like standalone licenses.
Oh yeah.
Active.
It's true. Okay, so again, I want you to get some title blocks going. So open your file, give it the right name, save it. We're not going to do a whole lot just yet. We have some levels created, we have ceiling plans created, we have some basic elevations, right? It all looks good so far.
Does it need to have a particular name for this class? Right?
Yeah, call it UR_ your last name. Okay, so we don't have any title blocks loaded in here. I already know that. If I were questioning it, one area that we didn't get super familiar with in Revit Fundamentals was this families area of your project browser. But if I open that up, right, and I go through here all the time to rename things and to look for things, you can see that every sort of category of family is showing up here. So a title block is annotation. So if I open up annotation and I go all the way to the bottom, I don't have any title blocks in here. And I'm pretty sure it should be in here. So,
Okay to work on our homework.
if you don't talk, I'll just be honest. It's okay if you want to. Have you been using computers in here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the next class.
That's fine, as long as you guys are silent.
How long are you guys in here for?
We'll be in here for another half hour, 45 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. But the other lab, that one, has the same software as this one, and so does the interior design lab, if you wanted to be able to converse over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So if I don't see title block here and I'm thinking, well, I thought it was under annotation, maybe it's under its own category. Let's look. I don't see it. I'm going to do a Control F. While you're in the browser, you can type Control F, and there's a find option. So title block, and I see that there are no title blocks loaded, right? So if there was a title block family loaded, it would show up here in my browser, okay? So I'm going to close that up, and I'm just going to go and get my title blocks. And I'm going to start my title blocks with one of the families that Revit gives us out of the box, right? The way that Revit always works, and I say this all the time, is that, you know, the software used to be called Revise It. So the idea is always, there's not, it used to be Revise It, yeah. And when it was purchased, they changed it to Revit to shorten the name. But the idea behind that is that you take something that is already existing and you revise it to what you want it to be, right? There's no like new title block button here. Hello. Yes, if you're silent. That's my only caveat. So like with the title block, we have one that is currently existing in the Revit Imperial Library. We're going to take that, we're going to open it in its existing format, and we're going to revise it, right? We're not going to create a brand new one from scratch unless we actually have to. So I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to choose Load Family. And I'm going to go down to, I think Title Block has its own, does it? Yep, Title Block folder. And I'm going to click on one, hold Shift, and click on all of them, and I'm just going to open those all up. And we're going to overwrite all of them. Maybe there was one in there that I just didn't see. And by doing what I just did, yep, I'm just going to load them all. By doing what I just did, I have now loaded all of the title blocks into my current Revit file. So let's see, annotation symbols here. Oh, my title blocks are not showing up again. That's kind of odd. Oh, there they are. Annotation symbols. So they're not ordered under title block. They're just alphabetized. There you go. A, B, C, D, E, E1. What's that?
Can we load a folder? Maybe that way we create it.
Not in here. I don't think that'd be a good idea. I think it's best just to let them categorize in here. All right, so I can open this up and I can see there's my family right there. If I double click on it, I get my type properties, right? If I wanted to, I can drag it over here into my project if I'm in a view that it will be, if it's allowed to be created, okay? So they're all loaded in here, which is great. What I want to do now is I want to create a sheet and I want to put a title block on it, and then I want to edit that title block. So I'm going to right click on Sheets, New Sheet, and I'm going to pick the size I want. I think we're going to use the 22 by 34, which will print nicely on a 24 by 36, right? And I'm going to hit OK. So by doing that, now I have a sheet created, right? And Revit gives it a default name, so this is A101 unnamed, okay? And this is just the out-of-the-box Autodesk Revit title block, okay? So we're going to take this and we are going to use the information that has already been generated in here by Autodesk. We're going to use what we can, and we're going to add information essentially that we want more of, right? Or if we want more information, we're going to add it, okay? So I'm going to remind you all, hopefully, that even though this is called a title block, right, it's a family. A title block is a type of annotation family, right? And so a family is generally a separate file type from like a Revit file, right? A family has the extension RFA. If I double click on this, it will open up another file editor where I can change this. It's its own independent file, which is different from a Revit working file. All right, so I'm going to click on my title block. I can double click twice very quickly and it will open up the source file for this title block. I can click on Edit Family here, or I could hit Edit Family and it opens up my title block here, okay? So I'm going to come up here to Switch Windows, and I'm going to show you we have the D22 by 34 RFA file open now, and we have our UR bodily RVT working file open as well, okay? So I can see that I have my family file open, and I have my two tabs for my working Revit file open. So the idea here is I want you to create your own custom title block, okay? I'm going to pull up one from last semester. This is Anna's. Hers is very simple. She got rid of some of these lines. She added just very simple annotation here, right? She put her title here, and then that was her logo, essentially, right? So I don't mind if it's simple like this. I don't mind if you have kind of this enclosure all the way around it or not. I don't mind if it's just kind of open blank space, okay? I'm going to unlink these ladies here. Let's see. Did that unlink you back there? Oh, we'll just unlink all 4 of those. There we go. And we'll do the same over there. The wires are all messed up. Okay. I'm going to open up another project. This is one I worked on. This was a home project that I worked on. And the title block is really simple, right? I worked with another woman architect here. And I don't really like to have lines around my title blocks, right? I kind of like to have the open space, but some people like to have enclosure, which is totally fine. So I get rid of this. The only thing that's really kind of consistent is that we have this information block over here, right? So from here to here, they're both correct, whatever you want to do. However you want to design your title block is fine. But I want you to design your own title block with your own logo, okay? And we'll talk about how to do that. So within our title block, we have a few different things that we use to create it, okay? And these are in the assignment, so let me pull that up real quick. We have text, we have labels, we have shared parameters, we can use maps at times, detail lines, and then we have your logo, all right? So let me pull this over here. The first thing I want to show you is text, okay? So within the title block family, there are some things that won't change, right? Meaning the consultants maybe, right? This is our structural engineer, here's their address, here's their phone number, here's their email. And if we want to be able to just type that information into this title block, load it into our project, likely won't change again, right? So things that won't change on a project, like, you know, maybe your logo, some other minor things. If you don't want it to change from your Revit file, then you're going to use just dumb old text, okay? So you can see as I select these are just dumb text. If I click on it twice quickly, I can select it and I can type whatever I want to type there, okay? If I want to create new text, I can go to create and just use the text tool, right? We learned this in Revit Fundamentals. We've got some of our paragraph type definitions here, but essentially I can just draw a text box. I can type out my text, hit close, and there's my text, right? If I click on this text and I look down here at my properties dialog box, I'll see that this text is 1/4 inch tall. If I don't want it 1/4 inch tall, I can drop down and I could choose like 1/8, right? Whatever size you want it to be. 3/16. Great. Oh, didn't change it. 3/16. There we go. Okay. If I want it to be a size that is not available, right? This is typical in Revit. We revise something. We take something that is very similar to the object that we want to generate. We duplicate it, we rename it, we redefine it, and then we use it, right? So I click on the text, I can hit edit type. I can choose duplicate. Maybe let's do 1/16 of an inch text. Okay. And we'll change our text size to 1/16 of an inch. Okay. All right. So if I want to create new text or really any other item within my family here, I'm just going to grab it. I'm going to pick it. I'm going to click edit type. I'm going to duplicate it, rename it, redefine it, and then use it again. Okay. So that's text. All right. So we have text in our title blocks. We also have, I'm going to skip to some of these things. I'm going to come back to them. I'm going to skip right to our logo and graphic format. Okay, so if you want to create a logo in Photoshop, you can. If you want to take one off the internet and kind of edit it using Photoshop, you can. If you want to draw one in AutoCAD and then, you know, export it as an image and use it in here, you can. But the idea behind this is I want you to find some type of image or graphic and insert it into your title block for use. Okay, so if I wanted to put a logo in here, first thing I'm going to go online. Let's type in architecture logo. We'll just steal one for today. Okay, that one's black background. Good. Okay, so I come here. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to save image as. I'm going to save it in the same folder as my project. So I'm going to go to the desktop. I'm going to go to 2510. And then I'm going to call this logo and hit save. Okay. To use my logo, I'm going to click on this one and delete it, first of all, because I don't want it. I'm going to go to Insert, Image, and I'm going to go to wherever it's saved, Logo, Open, Click. Right? So easy. And then I'm going to size it to whatever size I want it to be. I'm going to grab that grip, right, and drag it around. MV, move it right into place. I'm going to drag it and make it the size I want it to be. So looks like it's pretty proportional right there. Okay, which means that that's not working, so I'm going to hit delete. That line's not working, I'm going to hit delete, right? I'm going to have to delete a few of these things out of here. All right, so we can add text, we can add our images, right, for our logos in graphic format. And I believe this is likely a JPEG. It'll take JPEGs, PNGs. It may not take TIFFs. It may not take a TIFF. But I think it will take a PDF as well. But try it out. It may work at this point. I think I maybe tried it one time and it didn't work, but it could have been several sessions ago or versions ago, right? So you can try it out. But put a graphic logo up there, okay? So we can add text, we can add graphic logos. The outline for this title block, we use detail lines, all right? So if I wanted to draw a new, outline or enclosure, I would go to Create, and I would choose Lines. And I would use these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different line types to generate whatever geometry I want to see in my title block. That's how I'm going to draw it, right? This is really kind of it's almost like using AutoCAD again, right? But not as good because I can't use my hands to initiate these, these detail lines, which is super annoying. But we have wide lines, right? Which are good for outside boundaries. We have medium lines, which would be good for inside boundaries. And then we have thin lines, which would be really good for sort of these little areas where you wanted to have dividers, right? And text in between, okay? So if I wanted to, for example, create this line, I would click on Create, Line. I would change to whatever one I want, wide lines, and I would just draw, click, click, noticing that it's 2'10", right? 22 inches, which is exactly the size we need. And I would just draw this, not as fast as I could in AutoCAD, but in a similar manner. I know.
See, I'm sitting here moving around lines, I'm like, I forgot how great Revit is.
Well, to each his own, right? It's good.
It's moving lines, not creating lines, but moving lines, I think Revit.
You know what? I would have a lot better feelings about it if I could have a shortcut hand key. Like detail line, wide line, and I could do a shortcut instead of
that kind of stuff, I definitely get it.
Browsing a menu.
Just moving things that puts up dimensions, I'm like, oh, this is
It's magic.
Like,
it
come
is.
on.
Yep, no, I agree with that, totally.
Revit, I feel like, and AutoCAD, I feel like the distance command I do every 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
I want to know where everything is. And
Yep, it's
so
true.
When it puts them up for me, I'm like, this just saves so much time.
There are definitely some good things, right? So that's a wide line, right? And I want to remind you of a setting we have. It's called thin lines, TL for shortcut key, TL. And you notice the thickness on those lines disappear. TL, and I can preview those thicknesses again, okay? And it's this little icon here. So you're just going to use your lines to create the design of your title block, right? So text for things that will remain sort of the same through the process. You're going to use an image to create your logo. You're going to design the enclosure however you want it to be using detail lines, okay? Another thing that we're going to be bringing in here is likely a map, right? So I'm going to open up that project we had here of Anna's, right? I want to talk about some of the information that we currently have on this title block, right? We have the enclosure for the title block. We have the logo. This is text, single family dwelling for Salt Lake Community College, SLCC 2017 project home. That's text. This is a detail line, right? This is a detail line. This is a detail line. This is just all text right here. This is also text right here. This is a schedule. So the title is text, but this is a schedule, so we'll generate those a little bit later. And this is, oh no, this is not a schedule. This is just regular old text, okay? So your assignment will be this week let's see, there we go. Here it is, project setup. You're going to be generating a cover sheet, a general notes sheet, and a symbols legend within your project file. So you'll design your title blocks, and then you'll generate these 3 sheets. And as you're generating them, right, you look at this as an example. You will have text, you'll have detail lines, you'll have more text. Okay, so that's how you're going to generate this information on your title sheets. All right, this is going to be done in mostly like this title and this title, right? We may need to make another title. I'm just thinking about this. We might have to make a cover sheet title block that is different from your other title blocks. So I might add that to the assignment. But I think it might be a good idea to have a quote cover sheet title block where you have this text and this text and this title and this title and this title, right? All of that information, the titles kind of built in, okay? So kind of the titles and this information, like the lines here, will be in the title block, and then you'll type in like this information right here, okay? Or this is a schedule, sorry. But what I also wanted to show you here is she's got a tiny little map. This is kind of small. I would likely make this a little bit bigger, but you'll want to bring what's called a vicinity map onto your cover sheet. This is something the city will require. And to do this, this is really just another graphic image, right? Just like your logo. And so to find your vicinity map, which the vicinity map will go into your actual project, it won't be in your title block. I'm going to go online. I'm going to go to...
She have all this information on the cover sheet.
Why?
Yeah, it's just a cover sheet.
It's required for this from the city. It's required for the city. And they want it on the cover as just a summary so they can browse it all. Yeah. So we're going to go, we'll get to the content a little bit later, but you're just going to be...
Put like drawing index and general notes.
Right. But you're doing a different type of work, right? Yeah. Than... So on an architectural set, you're showing life safety issues, you're showing code issues, right? They want to see what code you're using. They want to see what the structural design information is. They want to see how big the building lot is and how much coverage
All that
on one page. Yeah. It always fits, don't worry, it always fits. So I'm going to click on Google Maps and I'm going to go to our site. Let's see, where are we at here? We're getting there. State Street. Oh, too far south still. Oh, is that it? Nope. Nibley, we're getting close. Where's Liberty? There we go. So to get your vicinity map, where's the pool? Right there. Okay. You'll probably want to be zoomed out a little bit. Maybe like here you want to get a good sort of, you know, give somebody a good sense of where you're at. And usually I just use the snip tool. And I click on new, and I just really grab, not that was too much. Ooh, can't do it. Gotta do a new one. It's bad. There we go. Right, but I will usually just sort of grab the vicinity, okay? And we'll save this as 2510 vicinity map. You can open Photoshop up and you can make it black and white and, you know, make it a little bit more readable. I'm not going to do that right now.
Is the satellite view considered bad?
I wouldn't use it. Yeah, I wouldn't use it. They want to see the cross streets and they want to see where the project is.
Satellite is kind of messy.
It interferes with it. Yep. Okay, so I have my vicinity map and it's going to go into my actual project, but I do again want to show you. I'm going to click on view, insert, image. I'll grab my vicinity map, hit open, click, and I can place my vicinity map in there. Okay, then I can just use a text leader. So I can go to create text, and we'll do a little leader. It's going to be in the project. Sorry, it's not showing me my leaders here. But then you would just point to where our little project site is, and that is how you would work with that. Okay, this vicinity map will go into the actual project. So you'll load your title block in. Then you'll put the vicinity map on it in your Revit project, okay? But it's the same process as inserting your graphic image here, so I'm just gonna delete that. All right, so you're gonna design it, right? Let me just do a few quick little alterations here so that this looks a little bit different. Again, I kind of tend to prefer to not have all of this stuff in here. I like white space. I'm gonna move that down just a little bit. I'm gonna take this text out of here, delete that out. Maybe we do our contact information just below our logo, right? So maybe this is gonna say SLCC. We'll do it all lowercase, right? Okay, pretty good. Kind of small text. I'm gonna do maybe bump it up a little. Maybe I center it, right? Get it looking how I want it to look. And maybe we want a phone number. Okay, something like that. So I've got my logo, I have my contact information right below it, everything looks good. I am going to leave some of these other lines. I don't really like this line actually, I'm going to get rid of that. Delete that. I'm going to make these lines invisible. So I've got a little bit of a boundary. I'm going to change those lines to invisible. Right, so really I've just got this title block here, information block. Oh, the dreaded timestamp. We always delete that. That's terrible, right?
Default to the year 2000.
I don't know.
I don't think Revit even existed in 2000.
It was revised in 2000 likely, right?
It's very odd for it to default to that.
I mean, I understand the timestamp, but I just don't agree with it, maybe. I don't want them to know I printed at 4:30 in the morning. Okay. What's that?
That's a big one.
Yeah. You're like, I was done early. It's totally no big deal. Just kidding. The
When you
timestamp.
give someone a file that says when it was last worked on,
Yeah.
it's like 4 a.m.
I know. The night before it's due. It's good. It's good. Okay, so we have our title block somewhat the way we want it to look. Okay. I'm just gonna close this. No, I'm not gonna close it. I'm gonna go back into our project file. We're back in our Revit working file right now. And I want to show you some things, okay? I want to show you that if I click on the text, which I haven't loaded the title block back in, so it's not functioning like how it is viewed in the family just yet, but I want to show you some differences between things. If I click on the text, I can't alter it, right? It's dumb text, it's stationary, it's static, it doesn't move. If I come down here though to owner and I click on it, magically the text is editable, right? So I can type in SLCC, hit enter, and now on any title block that is brought onto a sheet, SLCC pops up as the owner, right? Because by you typing in SLCC as the owner right there, you're essentially defining, right, the owner as SLCC, and Revit knows that. So anywhere where it calls for the quote definition of the owner, SLCC will pop up, okay? So this is what's called a label. And a label it's a smart element in your title block, okay? So project name, we'll call this the urban residence, okay? And maybe this sheet is the floor plan, right? And if I click on A101, I can name it AE101, right? So all of these things that are editable within my actual project, right, from the family, these are called labels, right? And to create a label, you define a parameter in the family that is a smart element that allows you to edit it from the actual project family, right? So what I want to show you next is how to create a label, all right? It's really actually pretty easy, all right? I'm going to leave these in here. No, I'm not. I'm going to delete this one, client name, okay? I don't like client name there. I could have moved it up and rotated it, but we're just going to, create a new one for the sake of learning how to create a new label, all right? So I want my project name, or my client name, and my project name. We'll delete that. I like my sheet name to be here, but I like it to have a lot of room to breathe, because sheet names get very lengthy. And in fact, I like to move my parameter down a little bit, and I like to put some text right here that says sheet name, and then when I change it, I have a title above it that says sheet name, right? So I'm skipping around a little bit, but I'm going to create some text, and we will put it right in here. Sheet name, we'll center that. Okay, we'll center that, move it down just a teensy bit. And now I have a dumb piece of text as a title. And then this is the label, right? That has a parameter associated with it. That when I change this, it still says, hey, this is a sheet name, and then that alters per sheet. Okay. All right. So let's create some actual some labels. All right. If I go to create, you'll see that next to text I have a label option. All right. So if I click on label, it's going to give me this little browser, this little cursor, and it says place your label. Now I can place this and I'm going to move it into wherever I want it to be and rotate it, right? So it doesn't matter where I initially place it, I just have to get it in the project. So I click. Does this look familiar with your schedules a little bit, right? So when I click, I am allowed to define this label according to all of these elements within this little area here, okay? So we were looking for, what was the name? Project name. Project name. Okay. I click on project name. I click on add parameter to that label. I hit OK. And now project name is defined. Okay. So if I click on it, you're also going to notice, because obviously it's very small, right? If I click on it, I can change the size of the label. So I'm going to change it to 1/4 inch. I'm going to make it a little longer. And I want to place it horizontally here. So I'm going to rotate it. You see a little rotate. Click. There we go. I want to, I'm going to click on it here. Normally with text, all of your paragraph options are up here, but with labels, they're over here. So I want this to be, I'm going to edit my, nope, I'm not going to do that, sorry. I want this to be horizontally aligned to the center. And the vertical alignment will be the top. So now my label is in the center. Okay, I'm going to move this. And you guys will be very particular about getting it centered, of course, right? And it's still too small. I don't like it. So I'm going to hit edit type. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to create a new 1/2 inch label. Now let me just clarify something. I am changing the aesthetic of this label. I'm not changing its definition. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not adding a new label. I'm just changing the size of the text associated with the label. So I'm not undefining it as project name. I'm just making it bigger. Okay. So this is going to be 1/2 inch. I'm going to hit OK. It looks pretty good. Again, I kind of like to, I'll usually take a piece of text. I'm going to copy this one, CO. There's nothing wrong with using what we already have, right? I'm going to rotate it. Oop. I'm going to send, oh, look how nice that is. AutoCAD doesn't do that, people.
Those things are really useful.
I know, right?
All the snapping and dimensions are the best.
Okay, so that's a title, and then the project name will be altered. Now, if I click on that label, if I have a long project name, it's only going to go from here to here before it wraps down. So I always usually like to extend my text box as far as I can. Okay. Let's do another one. I'm going to do the project address right under it, and then we'll load it into our project and see it in action. So the project address is also going to be a label, right? So I'm going to choose create, a label, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to come down here and we'll choose project. Where's the address? Project address. Okay. I can also change the sample value, like you see how this says project name. You could have changed it and abbreviated it or given it some other value that it shows before you actually change it to the appropriate information. Project address. Let's change that to 1/4 inch label. We'll rotate it. We will center it on this little guy. Oh, come on. It's not wanting to do it. Oh, I know why. I know why. Okay, it's because I think we need to change, yep, to center. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna move it a little. Oh, there we go. So it's centering on that. This will make sure that's still, there we go. Okay. So project address, and of course you're going to go back and forth and you're going to make sure these all look very nice and they're neatly spaced, and use text where appropriate and use labels where appropriate, right? I try to use I try to use labels as much as I can, and I do that because in Revit, if I change it in one place and it's a label, it changes it everywhere, right? So if I change the project name and it's a label in Revit, it will change the project name on every sheet. If I change the address, same thing. But if I change, something else that is not a label, then it only updates on the sheet it's currently on. All right, so we've done a lot of changes. I want to look at this in my project and make sure the labels are actually functioning. So I'm going to load into my project and I'm going to close this file. All right. Now, one thing I want to make really clear about Revit is that in the actual working file that we have Titleblocks loaded, right? And then we have double-clicked on one of those. We've opened it in an editor and we're changing it. So if I load it back in, it's going to overwrite the existing definition of that title block in my project. Okay. Now, if I don't want to overwrite that definition, I need to save this family, which we could call block, right, with a new name, which I'm going to do because I want to keep my Revit title blocks that are currently in my file. I want to keep them because we might use them, right? So I'm going to give this a new name. I'm going to save this file. File, save as a family. I'm going to save it in the same place as my project. And we will call this, Arch D 22 by 34 horizontal, and we will call this UR, Urban Residence. Save. Okay, so essentially I just created a brand new title block from an existing one that I had, right? So what I want to do now is I want to load this into my project and close it. And I can't create it in this view, but what I can do is go to a sheet, click on this title block, use my drop down here, right, and change it to 22 by 34 UR, and it changes. Okay, so now you can see that my labels here, right, all of my labels are functioning. If I change this to residential village, we'll say residential village, that's amazing. Oh, it's not quite, with a really long title like that, it doesn't work. Okay, so I need to either edit some things or make this not quite as long of a title. So if I want to now say put the address further down, I would click on this, hit edit family. Right, you'll go back and forth a lot on this. Move this over. Okay, load into project and close. Overwrite the existing version. Oh, now the address is readable. Okay. So I double click on the address. We'll type in I don't know what the zip code is, but we'll just guess. There we go. So now I have my address, okay? And I have my sheet name here. This is the floor plan, okay? And I can type that in and everything works the way it should, all right? So you're gonna add some labels to your title block and you're gonna get it functioning, all right? I was gonna talk about shared parameters today, but I kind of think that maybe we'll save that for next time. It's kind of a big topic. So maybe this is kind of a lot of work already for you guys. So let's do this. Let's get our title block created. Let's get our cover sheet, or sorry, our title blocks designed. You're gonna have to do several sizes, okay? It is due. Okay. So you have a little bit of time. I feel ya. That's good. That's good. Let me stop the recording here.